Hi everyone, I'm going to continue with this sheep and lamb painting today. My plan is to add some soft multiple coloured highlights to the main animal here, these three on the right and this one here as well. I'm pretty happy with the way the paint has dried, so when you use the interactive acrylics and you paint onto a wet surface, sometimes it leaves drying marks, which have happened here, and that works quite well for the fleece. And yeah, we'll get going. So I've got my burnt umber, cad red, ultramarine blue, cad yellow left over from yesterday, added a load more tinting white. So I'm going to begin by using this little flat frayed brush, pick up a load of the tinting white, and I'm going to add just a touch of the burnt umber to that, just a touch of the blue, and we'll see how that goes down on the painting. I'm going to spray the surface of the painting with water. That's perhaps a little darker than, yeah, that's a little too dark, I think. So what I'll do is just lift that off, or lift most of it off anyway. And I'll wipe off my brush and go back in on the tinting white and just pick up a little lick of that paler stuff, and we'll see how this goes down. Now let's start over here this time. That's a bit more like it. So although this is looking quite opaque as I put it down on the paper, when it dries it should become a little more transparent. Now I've got the shape of the head of the sheep here a little bit wrong. It's a little bit too long, so I'll take the opportunity while I'm using this white to just trim the nose section a little bit. I'm going to come back in a minute and work on the head. Anyway, so that should work out okay. Got the tail down here. And then the front of the body is in a bit more shadow, but there are highlights within it, so we'll introduce some of those. So I'm just squinting at my reference to try and pick out the biggest shapes, and there is kind of a frill of the fleece, I guess, which is more or less making that kind of shape on the chest of the animal. And then below that there's another one there. So it's kind of difficult to know how well this is working at this stage because I need to let everything dry completely, but for the moment I'm fairly happy with the way that's gone down. Now, while I've got this colour on the brush, if you remember a couple of episodes ago, I said I was going to keep these three animals fairly subdued, but I would pop a couple of highlights onto the adults. So I'm going to do that now, just add a little bit of light onto the head of that animal. Perhaps just knock back a bit the top of that. And we'll add a touch on the top of that ear. Then a little bit along the back. And for now, I'm going to leave that one as is. And then again, continuing with this same colour, we'll come back over to this one on the left. Need to get a bit more paint on the go here. It's a little bright, that last bit I put down, but I will subdue that at some point in the future. So we'll just add a little more of this highlight here. And that's probably enough of that for now. But what I can do is now switch to my other brush. Same one as I used yesterday, the synthetic flat. I've just got paint all over my hand. 1 second. So this synthetic flat, which isn't frayed, and we will come back in and add so I'm still working up the tinting white. I'll grab just a touch of the blue, perhaps a bit more of the white in there, and we'll use this to put down some brighter highlights. Oh, that's gone, that's still a bit dark, isn't it? So let's get some more tinting white. And while I've got that near pure white on the brush, what I can also do is just add a few smaller marks. Within the fleece. But let's move back to the head now. Brighten up that cheek, the little flash of white on the top of the head, down the side there. That's probably all I need to do for that bit. So the next thing I want to address then is to start to add in some much darker darks, and in order to do that I'm going to stick with the same brush initially, just cleaning that out. And to begin with, what I'll do is I'm just going to grab some of the pure ultramarine blue, just get a touch of water in the mix, and then looking at this leg, just going to add a little blue line of shadow down there. And there on the left of that foot. I think I'll even put one over here as well, just to define the angle of that foot a little better. And then we'll come in here, do something similar. And while I've got that colour on the brush, we'll add a little defining line there for that ear, which I think I've probably put in slightly the wrong place, so we'll just move it. Then come in and define the jawline a little more precisely than I had done. And although I'm using, for the most part, this flat brush end on, so I'm obviously putting down a straight line effectively, it's surprising how much of a curve you can approximate using a variety of angles of straight line. So that's just kind of refined the shape of the head a little bit there, which was needed. And now I'm just looking around that same animal to see where I could use this blue with perhaps a bit of artistic license. But I think I'm going to leave that one for the moment and go back over to that one on the left and do a little bit of a similar treatment just to refine the shape of this head. Because if you remember on my initial drawing, I realized that I put the head in the wrong spot. And then my initial correction to that was little more than a smudge of paint. So I haven't ever really drawn the head of this animal. So I just want to define it so that it's really good to be loose, I think, when one is painting away, but that can go too far. Because we want to I want this thing to look like a sheep, basically. So that started to help a little bit, I think. So I'm just dry brushing a little bit of this blue over the pale brown shadow that I had before. And I'm also going to take the opportunity with this same colour to put in the front legs. Bit more of the dried brush and along the belly. That's all I'm going to do on that one for the moment. So, having done all of that, let's now go back to the star of the show, and I'm going to take that ultramarine blue and I picked up a bit of white by mistake, but just put a bit of burnt umber in there. Perhaps we'll get a little bit of the red. So that's given me a dark brown, and then this I can use as one of my dark shadow colours. And what I can do here is put in little solid blocks of shadow where you've perhaps got deep cast shadows, and then in addition I can just feather the tips of the brush over the surface of the painting to get a lighter touch. And what I'm able to do by doing this, you see on the legs, for example, I've used about 5 colours now. But by just building it up carefully in stages, it starts to piece together what is hopefully the overall effect of there being a sheep's leg there. Now, underneath the cheek and jaw of this animal, the shadow that I've got there goes a little darker. And it kind of becomes paler as it works its way down the body. And this colour is also, I think, going to be quite handy for the colour on the top of the head, which is a bit darker than what I've got at the moment. So now, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to, we'll give it a go, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to put the mouth in with the corner of this brush. It's not too bad. It's not quite what I had in mind, but I think it needs to come up there a touch more. But we might come back to that at a later date. So with that same colour still, may as well keep it going. But what I am going to do is just add a touch of the tinting white to that same mix. And what we'll do is we'll use that to put in a few little textural lines. To start to pick out some of those little shadows that, you know, the fleece naturally creates as the little clumps of wool lie on top of each other. Now I'm going to add a little more of the cad red to that colour. Yeah, that's not too bad. So there's a shadow which comes down here. Then I'm just cleaning my brush off one more time. And I'm going to grab some of the ultramarine blue, mix that in with the kind of slightly off-white that I had before. Because I think the cheek of that animal on this side could do with being a little more bluish. And I'll actually continue that down to there. Equally, have a little bit of that down there on that front leg. So we're starting to get somewhere now. That front sheet is starting to come to life. What I'm going to do is just grab some of the pure tinting white. And I quite like how with this one, a few streams ago, I put down some thicker layers of this, and it's dried in little impasto ridges. And it's a nice way to create some fleece-like texture. So I'm just going to do something similar on this animal. Again, much like the other regions of tinting white I've put down, when it dries back, I'm hoping it'll be somewhat translucent. And then towards, at some point later on in the painting, I will come in with titanium white to put down some more opaque highlights. And then on the front of the chest, let's add a little bit of the cad yellow to that. Mix it in with the white, and I just want the tiniest amount of the red. My hope is that this will that's okay. It's nothing too dramatic, but I think for today I'm going to leave it there, and then once everything's dry, I'll switch to mixing colours with my titanium white, and that will allow me to come in and finish off the head and resolve everything on the fleece. I think the legs I may just leave as they are, and then we're getting close to completing the painting, I think, but I need to fully finish this girl, and then we'll see how much more I want to do on the others. These three, I don't think I'm going to do too much more to those. I mentioned before I need to just soften some of the lines around here, so I'll probably do that. And I do need to do a bit more on this one. But that one's coming together okay, I think. Okay, yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there. Thanks very much for